Good. Well, as you all know, our topic tonight is managing stress as caregivers. And Jessica is a staff person at Catholic Charities and is really in charge of the active aging programs. And so she's done programs around the different churches around the community on different types of care for caregivers and others. But she's been doing the managing stress as caregivers, or excuse me, the caregiver course, Powerful Tools for Caregivers, for about 7 months. She said she's been an instructor. And the good news is that Jan and I have been talking, and we're going to talk with the health cabinet. We're going to try to bring the program to Redeemer in the fall. It's a 6-week wonderful course. I just had the opportunity to sit through it along with another Redeemer parishioner. And it just offers so many tools in both being a caregiver, but also taking care of yourselves. Such an important role so that you can help others. And so she's been gracious enough to talk to us tonight. Obviously, she can't give us a 6-week course in an hour, a little over an hour. But she's really got some good topics as far as acute and chronic challenges, some of the tools they use in helping us to manage stress, identifying signs and symptoms of stress, looking at stress reducers, as well as action plans. I bet a lot of us don't use those action plans very often. And then maybe looking at some ways to relax and take care of ourselves. So with that, I'm going to turn the program over to Jessica Mollison.
So my plan for tonight is just to talk a little bit about Catholic Charities, specifically our program, which is called the Active Aging Program. And then I will jump into, like Kathy said, the stress management course from Powerful Tools for Caregivers. I do want you guys to know to please interrupt me if you can't hear me well, or if you have any questions or want me to repeat something. Don't ever feel bad chiming in. I want to make sure that everybody gets the most out of tonight as we can. So first off, Catholic Charities, I have our mission statement up there. Whenever I give a presentation, I draw attention to the fact that it says we serve people regardless of faith tradition. So that's one of the most common questions I get, is people will say, well, I'm not Catholic. So no, we're here for everybody. So I just always say that first, so that people know that hearing the Catholic Charities name does not mean that we exclude other folks. So like I said, my department is the Active Aging Program. So that's a picture of our team. So my director is Sue, who is right above me in the photo, and the other two are my colleagues. The highlighted area there are the 5 counties that I serve. So you'll hear me talk about utilizing volunteers for a lot of our services, and that's the reason. I am one employee in those 5 counties. So obviously being based in Rochester, it makes me able to kind of co-facilitate some of our local classes here. But then we do utilize a lot of volunteers for all of our programming in the other counties as well. So we do serve 20 counties all across the southern part of the state between the 4 of us employees. So that is the highlighted there is all of our counties that we serve. So as you guys are looking at this map, if you have family or friends that don't live in Olmsted, but they're in one of our other counties, feel free to, send me a message and say, hey, you talked about this program. Do they have it in my county? Who would I contact? I'd love to help make those connections for people even beyond those in our group tonight. So our department, it can get to be a little confusing. We kind of manage a lot of different hats. So over on the left side there is kind of a bullet point of what we do. So we have exercise programs. Most of them are geared towards folks 55 and better, and it's all about helping people to stay active. So our approach is really proactive. We don't want to wait until somebody has a fall and then they only at that point think about doing physical therapy and staying active. We like to really try to intervene early on and just help people to keep their mobility, keep their range of motion. We also have classroom-based workshops. So Powerful Tools for Caregivers is one of them. We have a few others that I'll get to in a later slide. And then we also manage a grant through AmeriCorps Seniors. So most folks are at least familiar with the AmeriCorps name. So AmeriCorps Seniors also has a program where we can help nonprofits to offer benefits to their volunteers. So I'll get into more details there too. So our exercise classes in Rochester, we have 2 different classes. One is called SAIL, so it's Stay Active and Independent for Life. It is an evidence-based class, so what that means is it's not our own program, right? We got it through University of Washington. They developed the whole program, conducted all these tests to make sure that it's actually effective, kind of tweaked it, made sure that they had all the right components in the class. So we have volunteers that lead that class 2 days a week in Rochester. So these ones are held at Bethel Lutheran Church. SAIL is Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 a.m. And then AFEP stands for the Arthritis Foundation Exercise Program. And that one we have a trained instructor. So they go through official training through the Arthritis Foundation. And then they lead that class the other 2 days a week. So we have class Monday through Thursday at Bethel. Program is totally free. You don't need to register or anything. Usually we ask new folks to arrive about 15 minutes early. We do have a waiver that they have to sign. We provide the weights for participants to use, so it's really cost-free. Just a great way. A lot of folks enjoy just the social aspect of it too, especially individuals who are living on their own and don't really get out a lot. It's a good chance just to get out, see a familiar face a couple days a week. Any questions with the exercise classes?
And one more time, what does the FAEP acronym stand for?
Sure, that's Arthritis Foundation Exercise Program.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so along with Powerful Tools for Caregivers, we have some other classroom-based programs that we offer. So we've got Living Well with Chronic Pain, Living Well with Chronic Conditions. So those 2, along with Powerful Tools, are all a 6-week class. It's all led by trained facilitators. Like I said, usually it'll be one of us and a volunteer or a pair of volunteers that can lead these courses. They're all evidence-based and with a script. So when I get to the stress management, you guys will see me kind of looking down and up a little bit more. It's an actual script. So the reason for that is they want to ensure these classes are offered all throughout the United States. And so they want to make sure that anybody who takes this class is getting the same quality of information and they're all getting the full course in those 6 weeks. So there is a lot of sharing, and Kathy can, attest to that. There is still a lot of participant involvement and camaraderie between the people in the class. But the instructors ourselves, we do follow the script to make sure everybody gets the right information. We also have a program called Aging Mastery Program. So that one is a little longer. It's about 10 weeks, I believe, 10, 12 weeks. And they bring in different experts from fields, so they'll talk. So maybe it would be a nutritionist who's talking about the importance of nutrition and that sort of thing. We don't offer that program as much, but I know that Elder Network just offered it in partnership with 125 Live. So there are a couple other organizations in town that offer some of these programs too. And last on my list is Money Smart. I do have a slide about that next. So Money Smart for older adults is a program that I actually teach, or I think I have one volunteer who might start teaching it too. Usually it's me though. So this program is also not developed by me. It's from the FDIC and the Consumer Financial Bureau. So people who really know what they're doing. And the whole idea of this program is trying to inform people about the common scams, what to look out for as far as red flags with a scam, kind of what steps they should take if they feel like they might have been victim of a scam. And I get so many people who say, oh, well, I know you just hang up on them. And I should have brought my stats here. Usually when I teach the class, I'll tell people how much money scammers make off of older adults in a calendar year in the United States, and it's astronomical. So I said, you can be smart and you can still fall for these, because these folks are smart too. They see that big sum of money that they're trying to get, they're gonna come up with new ideas and new tactics to try to trick people. Super good program. Also, like all the other ones, it's offered free of charge. So yeah, any questions with any of our classroom-based programs? All righty. So like I said, we do manage a grant through AmeriCorps Seniors. So how many of you volunteer in some capacity? Show hands. Some folks.
Wait, what?
Yeah, with anything. So the AmeriCorps Seniors program, how it works is we partner with local nonprofits, and then we can offer their volunteers supplemental insurance. So that covers if they were to fall asleep on a sidewalk, you know, think Meals on Wheels deliveries, things like that, where they're out and about a lot. And also can help with mileage reimbursement. So if individuals are driving, even if they're just driving from their house to their volunteer site and back home, we do cover those miles from your house to wherever you're volunteering. So it's a good way just to build more connections in the community. It helps out when these nonprofits are trying to apply for grants and things like that, just to show that they have these community-based partnerships.
Hello.
And that's also the program that our volunteers are enrolled in. So the exercise leaders and the classroom-based instructors are enrolled in AmeriCorps Seniors too. All right, so with the AmeriCorps Seniors Grant, we have certain focus areas. So the organizations we work with they all fall under one of these 6 categories. So independent living for seniors. So we work with Family Service Rochester, Olmsted County Transportation, Elder Network. Then we've got our wellness programs, education in the schools. We have Pen Pal program and reading books to first graders. So a lot of fun ways to get involved. The Pen Pal especially I like because we can partner with individuals who don't have easy access to transportation, and they can still have that connection and they can still serve in their community because it's all just right from their own home. We also support affordable food. So we work with Channel 1 volunteers, Meals on Wheels, senior dining, affordable housing, Habitat for Humanity, warming centers and places like that. And then environmental stewardship is a new one. So we just started working with Quarry Hill volunteers, and we're hoping to expand to some of the other parks around. All right, so that is it for my first little section about active aging programs. So any questions about any of that stuff for me?
If we become interested specifically in transportation for someone who has difficulty moving about, not only getting to appointments, but just other essential things like getting medical aids, needing mobility devices, how do they go about that? Filling out a form with you or calling to set up an appointment?
Yeah, so are you thinking for the volunteer or for the folks needing transportation?
For the need.
For the need. So we partner with Elder Network is one of the main ones that does transportation, and Family Service Rochester.
Okay.
So
Thank
I
you.
would suggest they reach out to one of those organizations, and then yeah, they can take care of the intake, but they do have programs that are for like social outings too. So it's not only for appointments, because some organizations are restricted to appointments only, but yeah, they do have those programs too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Before you jump into stress, can I tell you all something kind of humorous? Today a gentleman came in with a magazine cart to Dave's hospital room to offer him some magazines. And he said, "Sir, would you like something to read?" And Dave looked up, and it was one of his close friends in the 70s that he played baseball with.
Oh, wow.
And he said, "Oh my gosh." And he called him by name. And Roger looked down and said, "What are you doing here anyway?" He says, David said, "How long have you done this?" He said, "I started volunteering in the community when I retired from IBM, and my favorite job is working in the hospital." And for me, it was just a reminder of the many, 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 many volunteer opportunities. And so I always encourage people just to call you. So if you need help somewhere, they can maybe be that person.
Yeah, yep, exactly. And I do get a lot of phone calls like that, just, you know, somebody saying, "Hey, I'm recently retired, I want to volunteer, but I'm kind of overwhelmed trying to figure out what do I do." So that is always a great option, just to call me and I can kind of talk you
Great.
through the different ones that I'm aware of.
So it's not uncommon for people to not know where to start, because that's the questions I get. I'd like to do something, but where do I start? So that's a good suggestion. Just have them call Jessica. Good.
Yeah, yep. And then I will give you guys another date. And so let me just look it up quick. So May 9th at 125 Live, we
Ooh.
are going to have a volunteer fair. So I'm helping to plan it
Ooh.
with Rochester Area Volunteer Administrators is our group name. It's RAVA. But it is 3 o'clock, 3 to 6 p.m. at 125 Live. It's free. There's going to be 30 different tables of organizations within Rochester that are looking for volunteers. So anybody's
Oh,
interested.
wow, thank you.
Yeah, it should be a good time. I'm excited for it.
Great.
All right, we're gonna jump on into our main topic here then. So as you guys know, we are covering managing stress. So this class is fairly similar to the style of our Powerful Tools for Caregivers 6-week program. So our agenda for today, we are going to just cover just a quick overview of what Powerful Tools for Caregivers is. We'll talk a little bit about acute illness versus chronic illness. I won't dwell on it too much. I'll skip a little bit there just because I'm sure everybody in the group is kind of aware of the difference there. We'll talk about managing stress, including identifying your own signs and sources of stress. Then we'll go into taking action, so brainstorming some stress reducers, making an action plan, which is something that I hope you guys take and utilize beyond tonight. It's a really good tool. If we have time, we'll do some relaxation. If not, I'll just send you guys a link to that. And that'll wrap up our night. Alrighty. So caregiving to somebody with a chronic illness, it does require a different mindset than caring for somebody with an acute illness. Acute illnesses such as like the flu or pneumonia, we often can just set aside our own lives for a little bit, knowing that, well, in a week or in 4 days, they'll be better and you can jump right back in. That kind of a tactic doesn't work so well with a chronic illness because you're in it for the long haul. So if you're thinking of a stroke victim or Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, anything along those lines, it changes your life. It changes your normal, right? So looking at the slide here, with an acute illness, there is a cure available. So there's treatments to heal and restore somebody's health. On the flip side of chronic illness, there is no treatment that's going to take the illness away. Sometimes there are different treatments to help manage a chronic condition. And at times the illness can be under control, but then at times it'll come back, right? Acute illnesses are more short-term, whereas chronic illnesses are long-lasting. With acute illness, you will return back to normal. Somebody gets better and you go back to your normal life. Chronic illness, your normal changes. So we're all very used to the term new normal after COVID, right? That's a universal term now, the new normal. That's kind of how it is with chronic illness. In acute illness, you're dealing with certainty. So you can predict the future, right? You can plan something in 2 weeks. You kind of know what to expect. Chronic illness, there's a lot of uncertainty. So chronic illness can lack a predictable pattern. You might not know, it might be better tomorrow, it might be better next week, or it might be worse. It makes it really hard to predict. So we show this chart just to remind caregivers that the approach needs to be different. I think we're all pretty used to dealing with acute illnesses throughout our life. So sometimes when somebody's faced with a chronic illness, they try to approach it in the same manner, and that doesn't work, right? It's a different ball here. So usually we can't stop the impact of a chronic illness on a family member, but we are responsible for our own self-care. So it's critical that we don't become a second victim of our family member's illness. It's sad when you hear somebody say, my mother was the ill person, but her illness destroyed my father. It's not selfish to think about your own health and well-being as caregivers. When you take care of yourself, everyone benefits. A lot of times caregivers think that they need to set aside their whole life, their self-care, everything for them, and just dive in headfirst, thinking only about their care receiver. That's easy to do because usually when we're a caregiver, it's somebody that we love and we care about them. We want to be there for them. But part of being there for them is taking care of you. And that's really the focus of the whole Powerful Tools for Caregivers program. It's taking care of you. So we'll jump into stress a little bit. So stress is the reaction that we experience when the demands on us are too much for us to cope with. Some stress can be positive, but too much stress can affect us in negative ways, both physically and emotionally. One of the most important things that we can do for ourselves and our friend or family member is to take care of ourselves. It's important for you to thrive and not just survive. An important tool for thriving is being able to recognize and manage stress. So this chart shows the different steps to managing stress. So the first one is to recognize warning signs early on. It's easier and more helpful to make changes early to reduce stress. If we wait until we're overwhelmed, then usually it takes longer for us to recover from those effects of the stress. Second, you want to identify your own sources of stress. So we have to ask ourselves, what is causing stress for me? What causes the most stress for each of us may be quite different. And it's also important to remember to be honest with yourself. Okay, if it's your spouse that causes you stress and you feel kind of guilty inside saying that because, oh, but God called me to be with them and I should support them. Allow yourself the grace to be completely honest when you're identifying your sources of stress. There's no judgment in that. The third one is identifying what you can and cannot change. So it involves asking the questions, what do I have some control over? What can I change? So even if a small change can make a big difference. But if we try to change things over which we have no control, then that is just going to increase our stress and increase our frustration. And the fourth step is taking action. So take some action to reduce stress. It'll start to give you a sense of control. So it's not going to make your stress disappear, but taking that first step is important. Using these 4 steps to reduce stress is critical to self-care. Both the care receiver and the caregiver benefit. We're more likely to be patient and loving when we're taking good care of ourselves. So we're going to switch now and talk about some signs and sources of stress, and then we'll talk about tools for managing stress. It's important to recognize and manage our stress early on. If we don't, it can be hard to do anything else. So we're going to just brainstorm a little bit here. So hopefully you can still see my screen. I know I changed the view a little bit just so I can write. Part of Powerful Tools for Caregivers is just group participation. So I want to open it up to the group for anybody who has like a warning sign that they know that they want to share with us. So if we're able to identify and respond to our early warning signs, we can prevent the destructive impact that stress can have on us. However, oftentimes we don't recognize the early warning signs or we ignore them. So maybe we don't realize the early signs, we don't identify that, we just wait until we have the stomach ache or we realize we haven't eaten all day and then we're like, oh, I'm stressed. So I'll just kind of open it up. If anybody can let me know their own warning signs or just some common warning signs of stress.
Difficulty sleeping.
Difficulty sleeping, that's a good one.
I would say neck and shoulder tightness, which then moves to a headache, but it's kind of progressive. So
yeah. And that's a good example too, Kathy, of, a headache is the later symptom, but the early sign is that tension.
Yeah.
Jan, you had one.
I was going to say diet, our diet change, eating too much, eating too little, and the problems that go with that.
Yep. Anybody else?
Knots in the stomach is pretty common, I think, or upset stomach, or
Yep. I know I get really irritable too.
Mhm. And warning signs, I guess this progresses from symptoms to behavior change, but just withdrawal. When people are stressed, they tend to withdraw from their support systems.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Exactly. All right, so remember that earlier that we can identify our warning signs, the better. Some of these signs that we listed here might not be our earliest warning sign. They might be signs that finally will catch our attention. It's important to pay attention to our earliest warning signs and take action to respond to them. All right, so we're gonna brainstorm on the other side here, some sources of stress. So what are some things that cause you stress?
Conflict,
Work, job stress,
Mm-hmm. Family, can't be the only one.
Mhm.
Instead of being a plan, it's just a sense of being overwhelmed and not being able to put it down or in order, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure, confusion, being
Mhm.
overwhelmed. Yeah.
All right, good brainstorming. We'll jump back into our full screen here. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the results of neglecting stress. So if we don't take action, what will happen? Warning signs of stress can be physical, emotional, or mental. If we neglect those signs, problems will develop. So some of those issues can be increased health problems. Stress affects the immune system. It increases our vulnerability to illness, and it can worsen existing medical problems. It can also result in disrupted relationships. Stress can cause a breakdown in communication with others. Stress-related emotions like irritability and anger can also adversely affect our relationships. It can lead to burnout, which is just that total physical and emotional exhaustion. Can lead to depression. In fact, in PTC, I'll use PTC, so it's Powerful Tools for Caregivers, PTC. In PTC, we have a whole class where we talk about depression and the effects that it can have on somebody and kind of different strategies to help combat. And also just a overall decreased quality of life. Somebody in our brainstorm said, you know, if you're stressed, you kind of start to withdraw, so you pull away from those supports. Stress is a fact of caregiving, so we can't eliminate it, we can't stop it from occurring, but we can do our best to try to manage it. It's important to manage our stress so that it doesn't control us. So we completed the first two steps in managing stress, which was step 1, identifying warning signs, and step 2, identifying the sources of stress. The third step in managing stress is to clearly identify what you can change and what you cannot change. We only increase our stress and frustration if we try to change things over which we have no control. So have you ever said, if only they would change?
Mhm.
It's important to remember that we can change ourselves, we cannot change another person. Sometimes it means that we need to just let go. So now we're going to talk about tools for helping to reduce stress. We'll consider what we can do so that we can better tolerate unchangeable stresses in our life. The first step in dealing with stress is to take action. If we gain nothing, we gain nothing if we only identify our warning signs and sources of stress. That next step of taking action is important. We must actively do something to reduce the stress. Unfortunately, it's easy to get tangled up in the barriers. So some common barriers to taking action. Some people just can't think of what to do. So they're so overwhelmed by the stress that they're living in that they can't even think of a way to combat it. So we're going to do another brainstorm a little bit about stress reducers. So it might be good as we're doing our brainstorm, if there's any that you think is a good idea for you, just jot them down. Sometimes a barrier can be choosing a difficult activity. So that means selecting a stress reducing activity that's too involved, too time consuming, or you don't really want to do it. So some people have a hard time figuring out something that's actually going to help reduce their stress. And then postponing stress reduction. So if you're overwhelmed and you know you need a break and you plan a weekend girls trip and you're so excited about it, but it's in 4 months and you're overwhelmed now and you're burnt out now, that trip is nice to have on the horizon, but you also need something now. All right, so stress reducers are activities that can help us to relax. They're soothing and pleasurable, make us feel good, and we can build them into our life on a regular basis. So use the example of a girls trip. It's nice to have some big things, but it's important to have small, easy things that you can just add into your regular lifestyle. A stress reducer doesn't have to be elaborate. Just a few minutes a day doing something relaxing and enjoyable can help you to better deal with stress. So we're going to brainstorm again. So what are some things that you guys have been able to do in your own lives to help reduce stress?
Work in the yard, the flower gardener.
Yeah, yard work or gardening. I like it.
And listening to music, playing music, and just anything to do with music, if you enjoy that.
Yeah, music is always good.
Exercise, yoga.
Hey, I know some exercise classes you can go to. All right, what else? Anybody artistic? Painting, drawing?
That is a very good suggestion. Art, there, any kind of medium that you really like can really help you get lost in time. Just some of your own time. That's right.
You know,
Especially like
that
those
reminds,
adult coloring books.
I
I
was
like
just gonna say that. I have a friend that gives them to a lot of people, and I used to love to color as a child, but would never take time now. But I found a women's meditation book, so good, and it's a scripture for the day and a message, but just enough to keep you coloring for about 2 minutes. You know, there's things right on the picture, so it's not overwhelming, but it's just amazing how that can refocus me.
Yeah, yeah.
Good.
Reading books.
Yep, reading.
I like audiobooks.
Mhm.
You know,
I do too.
when I'm doing things, that really helps me relax.
Staying socially involved, talking to friends, keeping in touch, I guess.
Mhm.
Getting out in nature.
Yeah. So as we look at that list, think about when you get stressed, how many of those things that you enjoy doing do you no longer do? Because you say, I don't have time for that anymore.
Mhm.
It's pretty common. So sometimes it's helpful to match our stress reducing activity to our own way, our own body's way of responding to stress. For example, if you thought about your signs of stress and they're mostly physical, so stomach ache, headache, one suggestion is to pair that with a physical stress reducer. So exercise, going out for walks, yoga, things like that. If it's more emotional signs of stress, if it's the irritability and your brain just can't focus, sometimes it's good to do more emotional stress reducers. So meditation, things like that. So if your style of responding to stress is both physical and mental, you may want to try and involve an activity that involves both. So example would be yoga or Tai Chi, something where you're engaging your body and your mind both at the same time. All right, so we're going to talk about action plans. So I do have a handout, Kathy. I can email it to you.
Oh,
if it
that'd
might
be great. And then I'll
helpful.
just send it on to everyone. Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect. So I've got one handout that is tools for relieving stress. And then I have another handout I'll send that is an actual template of an action plan.
Oh,
So we are going to jump into action plans and actually have a chance for everybody to work on your own. I'll explain what it is, how we go about writing one. I'll give you guys some time, and then hopefully for those that are comfortable sharing, you can share with the group too. So an action plan, this is kind of like a weekly goal for yourself, okay? But usually goals, we think about what's something that I have to achieve and how do I get there? That's one style of a goal, but an action plan is more like an agreement or a contract with yourself to do something that you want to do to help you reach a goal. So the focus is really something that you want to do. One of the participants in my last class explained it really well. She said, it's giving yourself permission to do something for you. So the parts of an action plan, it starts with something that you want to do. It should be something that's reachable. So you don't need to say, I'm going to go out and run a marathon this week. You say, I'm going to go out and I'm going to run a mile. Okay, something that's reachable. Behavior specific. So that just means the more specific you can be about it, the better you'll do. For example, taking better care of myself is not a specific behavior, but making an appointment for a physical checkup, walking 3 times a week, or asking someone to stay with your care receiver while you get a break, those are very specific behaviors. So in an action plan, you really want it to be specific. And then you should be able to answer all these questions. So what are you going to do? How much or how long? When are you going to do it? And how often? So I do have a slide that has that outline for you guys when you go to write your own. And the last thing is the confidence level. So that really helps just to evaluate the quality of your action plan. So confidence level is on a scale of 0 to 10. And it's how confident or certain that you are that you'll accomplish your entire action plan during the next week. So you rate your own confidence level. A 0 means you're not at all confident, whereas a 10 means you're very confident. And then in the course of the Powerful Tools 6-week class, we as a team would come together. So somebody said their confidence level was a 5. We say, oh, that's kind of hard. How can we help you tweak your action plan to bump your confidence level up? And it might be something as easy as just saying, well, I wanted to do this 5 days a week. How about I set my plan as 3 days a week? So it's better to be a little bit more conservative, and then you'll have a better chance of actually achieving your action plan.
Well, what is the scale? If 5 seems too weak, where are we on a scale that you're discussing? Do you want it to be a 10?
Yeah, so usually in
curious.
class, we want to see a 7 or higher.
Okay.
So if it's lower than a 7, usually that's when we'd come together and just brainstorm a few ideas to help bump that confidence up.
Okay.
Good question. Alrighty, so I have an example of my action plan for you guys. So I go through all of the different sections of it. So the what, so this week I will walk outside. How much for 20 minutes? When over the lunch hour? How often? 3 days. And my confidence is 8 out of 10. Is that kind of making sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it's something I want to do. You know, we said it's something that you want to do that will help you achieve a goal. Well, if my goal is to be less stressed, I know nature helps me. So the action plan is very specific as far as what we're going to do, the amount of time, when I'll do it. The when you don't need to be as specific as I was there. It just helps me because then I get to my lunch break and go, oh yeah, I need to go for my walk. All right, so I have a outline here for everybody. If you have a piece of paper or something handy, you can actually jot it down. If you don't, hopefully you have a good memory, but it helps to actually physically write it down. So I'll give everybody a few minutes just to think about what their action plan can be for the next week. Remember, the goal here is something that you want to do.
Excuse me.
If you have a hard time thinking of something to do, think back to that brainstorming of different stress reducers. It's a good place to start. All right, about another half a minute here to wrap up, and then we'll start sharing some of them. All right, so whenever we share an action plan, we start with this week I will, like it's written on that top line there. And the reason for that is you want to be in the mindset of I'm going to do this. If we say this week I will try, we're already giving ourselves that wiggle room of I might do it, I might not do it. It's good to just get in that mindset of I will do this. So if anybody wants to share their action plan, just start with this week I will, and then let us know what you got.
Well, mine was, I started this last week actually, and I've already compromised it a bit, but I decided that I would do about 25 minutes of strength training. And this is all in our house, so I can be here with the person I'm trying to help and save time away for other things, kind of. But I thought of strength training and then some aerobic, just steps, like the Harvard step test deal. Because with small weights and bands and bridges and all the things I can do right here.
Mm-hmm.
So I said I do 25 minutes of strength and 20 minutes of aerobics, and in the morning. And of course, I started with 5 days a week. I'm kind of down to 3 already, but I also am hopefully starting to golf this week. So that will be a bit more exercise.
Good.
And I think for 3 days a week, I think I'm at a confidence level of probably 8. So, and it can all be done with 2 yoga mats and light weights in the basement. So
Yeah, perfect. And good job adapting it. You know, it's always a good thing to go, oh, maybe 5 was a little much.
yeah, I guess so. So anyway.
Good, thanks for sharing. Anybody else have one they want to share?
Well, my
Well,
action plan actually started
Go ahead.
probably the beginning of March. Our church went through this being challenge. And one of the habits that I wanted to develop was to read the Bible every day. So I found a chronological Bible reading plan. And it really amounts to reading 3 chapters each day. So this week I will read the Bible. How much time I spend? Probably 10 or 15 minutes each day. And it's usually the first thing in the morning. And that's daily. And my confidence level is 9. I found only one time that the day was just totally filled with something else that I couldn't get to it right away in the morning. So
Good. That's a great one. I like it.
Well, I picked walking, not anything real creative, and I was working with that in Jessica's class. But I was struggling with getting in a certain amount of time. So this week I would walk more. How much and how often kind of dovetail, because I'm setting my goal for 6,000 to 7,000 steps on my Apple Watch. So I guess that would just be accomplished at the end of the day. I'm going to do it 4 days a week. And my confidence level, I put it at 7.5. But you know, I can't say I did put over my lunch hour. But to accomplish my day's goal, obviously I'd have to measure at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Good. Yeah, that's a good one. I will share with you guys. So this last Powerful Tools class, I was trained in the program a while back, but this is the first class that I led. And I really learned to love action plans because,
Yeah.
you know, one week I put my action plan was I was going to go to the pottery studio. I'm a member at 125 Live. I love pottery. And it was one day after work and I was like, oh, I really want to go, but I got to go do this. You know, I was supposed to work in my garden. I was supposed to clean the house. And I was like, wait, I have an action plan. It's part of my job to go do this now. And just having that like permission to go and do something fun for me, it was really, really important. So I encourage you guys to utilize this more than just tonight. You know, it's a good practice, especially just to try to get in that weekly habit. So end of the weekend or whatever day works for you. Wednesday's my reset day. I don't know. My week, I like to start on Wednesday. It's just how I am. So I'm like, okay, Wednesday, I got to make my action plan for the next week. But just try to use it and try to catch yourself, because this happens a lot in the class, is people will say, the action plan is this week, I will prepare my taxes. It'll take me about an hour and I'll work on it once and my confidence is an 8. I go, that's an excellent goal, but it's not an action plan. You know, how many people do we know that enjoy doing their taxes? That's going to be a stress reliever. I think a lot of folks think of their to-do list and they know that the stress will go down once those things are done. But an action plan is separate from that. Action plan is supposed to be something fun. So we'll send out that little outline sheet of action plans for you guys after, and hopefully you guys can try to use it. And if you catch yourself with low confidence level, then just try adapting it, you know, instead of that many days, instead of reading a book for an hour, you're going to read a book for 20 minutes. Try to make it something that you can do, and you can always build on it then. From the next week, you can add in 5 minutes each week. But it just helps with your confidence too, if you have something that you know that you can achieve in the time frame. All righty. So based on today's presentation, we hope that you remember 4 main things. So that it's critical to take care of yourself. It's important to identify your warning signs and sources of stress. It's important to take action to relieve your stress, and that you can utilize action plans as a tool to help you reduce stress. So thank you for coming and sharing today. If you're interested in it being placed on a mailing list or to know about upcoming classes and events, you can let me know. Like Kathy said, we are hoping to be able to bring the full 6-week program to your church community in the fall, which would be excellent. So you're already on Kathy's list, so she'll keep you updated there. If you have any family or friends that aren't in the local area that you think could benefit from this class, they do have, let's see, where is the slide? Here we go. Powerfultoolsforcaregivers.org is listed on the bottom middle of this slide here, and they have classes all over the country. So they have in-person and they have Zoom. If you're in Rochester, I hope you will do a class with us. But if you have friends, family in other areas, or if you're looking for a class sooner than we're able to offer it or anything, hop on that website and you can see a full listing of their programs. Ours is offered free of charge. Some organizations do charge for the program. And then we use a book. We give the book to every participant to use during the course, and then it's just up to each person if they choose to purchase the book at the end of the class. So, but the class itself is totally free. All right, one other important part of class is teaching a variety of different relaxation methods. So this is from Powerful Tools, and hopefully the recording works well. Sometimes they don't like to with a slideshow, so we're just going to test it and see if it works. But guided imagery, so just kind of get in a comfortable position and let yourself just relax. If you want to turn your video off, if you're more comfortable with that, that's totally fine too. The point is just to give yourself this time and space. It's about 6 minutes. So I will play the recording and hopefully it works for us here.
Let go of all outside concerns. In this guided imagery exercise, prepare yourself for a summertime stroll to a beach. Make yourself as comfortable as possible in your chair. Uncross your legs and ankles. Relax your arms at your side. Close your eyes as a way of closing out any unnecessary distractions. Now imagine yourself walking barefoot down a sandy path. In the distance, you can hear the waves rumbling onto the beach. The soft sand feels slightly cool between your toes. The plants on each side of the path tickle your legs as you take this leisurely walk. As you get closer, the sound of the waves gets louder. You can see the sun slowly beginning to set above. It is making the sky and the few clouds turn pink and orange colors. As you continue down the path, you can see the water now. Its brilliant blue color is sparkling in the sunset. The calming ripples closest to the shore invite you to take a closer look. As you walk towards the water, leaving footprints behind, you start to feel the soft sand become more solid under your feet. It feels a little wet from the water near the shore. The edge of the water gleams with white foam. You notice a few seashells in the sand. You bend over to pick up one and see its perfect shape and pearly insides. With the warm water trickling between your toes, you look up and out across the water as far as you can see, realizing now how small we are in the vastness of the universe. Just a few feet from the water's edge sits an empty chair. As you walk toward the chair, you can see small crabs sticking their heads out of tiny holes in the sand and running away as you draw near. After you take a seat in the chair, you're impressed by the harmony of the surroundings, the warmth of the summer air, the sweet smell of the water, your toes in the sand, your ears listening to the sound of the waves, and your eyes watching the sunset over the water. A feeling of peace cascades over you. You take a deep breath to take in more of this relaxing time. You sit here and rest a while, relaxed in the feeling that nothing else in the world matters at this moment. This is a time of pure enjoyment, just for you. Listen a while and relax some more. When you're ready, you begin to stand up, feeling the soft sand between your toes again. Thankful that you've had this time to yourself. Remember that you can return to this place in your mind's eye whenever you want to. You begin to walk back along the sandy path that brought you to this peaceful place. You are grateful for this time of refreshment. Take a deep, cleansing breath and then slowly exhale. When you're ready, slowly begin to open your eyes.
Isn't that nice?
Very much relaxed. Mhm.
So that guided imagery is available on the Powerful Tools for Caregivers website. They also have one that's called a progressive muscle relaxation. So it kind of goes through your whole body when you like tense your hands and then relax your hands and goes through. Also just YouTube, if you look, if you're looking for a certain scenario, if you like mountains or things like that, if you just hop on YouTube and just look for guided imagery, you can find a bunch of different ones. There's also ones that just offer like the background noise, so without the actual talking. And sometimes that can help too, especially if you're kind of just wanting to pray, but it helps you to have that background sound. YouTube has a lot of resources for that. So just remembering to take the time for relaxation, whatever that looks like in your own life. It can be a really, really good tool. All right, so that is our whole program here today. If anybody has any questions or wanted to know anything else that I didn't cover, please ask. I want to make sure everybody gets everything they came for.
You want to put it back on full screen and you might have some questions from your presentation yet.
Yeah.
That was excellent.
Yeah, now we can see everybody better.
Yeah. Comments or questions from the group? You've got Jessica right here.
I
So
have
you
to,
said,
Oh,
pardon me.
go ahead.
I was going to introduce you to a member who's not here with us this evening, but Betty Miller would go for a walk
mhm.
every day. And she proved to be an inspiration to all of us as she still comes to our Caring Connection, but I haven't asked her recently if she started walking again this spring, but it is such a wonderful example of dedication to
Good.
time for herself.
And she had to
Mhm.
really push herself to walk. Her husband would always go with her so she wouldn't fall. But I mean, there were times when she sure didn't feel like it, but she pushed herself and it made a difference. She was stronger for it.
Yeah, that's excellent. I love to see that kind of commitment.
Mhm. Jean, what were you gonna say?
Me?
Yeah.
So the powerful tools is in the fall. And so where is it virtual? Is it meeting? Face to face that you're doing?
Well, at Redeemer, Jan and I were gonna try to have it right at Redeemer, and anybody can come. It isn't just Redeemer people. But Jean, are
Oh.
you, or Jessica, you might be presenting it before that, wouldn't you, or not?
We usually don't have things scheduled over the summer with vacation. It just ends up being too many people missing classes. So yeah, usually we kind of take a little hiatus until fall.
Okay.
But Jean, I'm sure Paula, I mean, we'll let you know. Jan and I need, like I said, talk to the health cabinet and see what date might be conducive. My sense is it would be, rally days, the first part of September. We usually start everything after that when it's not so busy and hectic. And then we like to get it done before Thanksgiving. So depending on Jessica's schedule and what we could do, we try to start it then. That's also the time we do a grief support group, so it might be busy time, but we'll work on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
We'll let you know, Jean. We'll get that
Okay,
down.
thank you.
Yeah.
And Cassie, you probably have a good feel for this, but maybe it's a good time to ask with other folks here too. Is it something that you'd want in the like daytime hours, or is an evening better? You know, do you have a lot of folks that are still working or have daytime commitments?
That's a great question. I would ask the group. That's a challenge with anything we do because I think my perspective, a large number of the people involved in a caregiver group might be retired and really fully involved in caregiving. Well, Jean, what would work best for you? You're in that situation right now. What would work best for you?
I think for me, it would be evening,
Oh, would
an
it?
evening session. Mhm. Or early in the morning, one of the two. But I'm just one person, so whatever works for
Well,
everybody.
we always ask.
Mhm.
What's been most commonly the time you've been asked to do it, Jessica? That might give us some help.
Usually daytime hours. Part of that is sometimes, the caregivers need to find somebody that can be with their care receiver. And there's some organizations, that have activities or have friendly visitors, and those kind of programs are more common during the day. But it depends. I mean, some of our classes, we have one that we teach for, it's still the powerful tools for caregivers, but it's for parents of children with special needs. And that one we almost always do in the evening hours.
Well, maybe Jan Dickey maybe knows best. She's, we had it at Redeemer years ago before I was in parish nursing. Well, not that many years ago, Jan. I don't want you to sound like a relic. But what I'm thinking when we're talking about this too is we do a 6-week grief support group, and we found that to be better in the afternoons. So my thought is not that they'd be the same day, but in the fall, if we're doing a grief group and then a caregiving group, it might be nice not to have them both in the afternoon or both in the evening.
Mhm.
I know the one I attended that Jessica did was from 10 to 11:30 in the morning, which seemed to be a good time for people. I don't know if that's early enough when you said early morning, Jean.
Sure, yeah.
10 to 11:30 was
That
good.
was fine.
What'd you say?
Yeah, no, that'd be fine.
I was thinking 7 to 8:30 or 6:30 to 8. I thought that might be kind of early.
I might have a hard time finding a co-leader then.
Yeah, yeah. But you're absolutely right, because even the ladies that came now to this 10 to 11:30 class needed to think about caregivers for their loved ones. So anytime, I think, for the people attending this, it would be a challenge.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Oh, you're muted, Jan. You're muted, Jan. Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Unmuted, yes.
There you are.
One of our members didn't come to your class because the spring, because it was too early for her. So caregiving can involve some work in the morning with the care receivers. So our
Good
class
point.
was in the afternoon. But
Okay.
I had wondered if maybe an evening class might not be a bad idea. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and
All I know is that they were, and we did that was with elderberries at that time, the class. But we did some other classes with elderberries too. They did chronic illness class, chronic illness.
yeah, well, you can kind of see, try to take a census and see what would work best for most folks, and that, and if there's any other classes being offered in town, if like Elder Network is putting on a powerful tools and they have a morning one, then that might sway us to do an evening, you know, just so that we can kind of catch everybody. So yeah.
Right.
Are your two classes pretty identical, do you think? Do you know their content?
They are, because the powerful tools curriculum mandates that we follow it.
So they're both,
They
it's
are
the same
the-
course.
Yep,
They're
so
the
they're exactly the
same,
same. So the only variant is the class that's for parents of children with special needs. It does have a different curriculum. So they still cover the same topics in the same order, but the curriculum and the brainstorming sessions are catered a little differently.
Great.
And I'm not sure, I've talked with Elder Network and I knew they had this class, but I'm not sure that it's free. It might be.
I think it is free too.
Is
Yeah,
it?
just a book you pay for.
The book, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I gotta tell you, that book is wonderful, though. It's just wonderful. It's just absolutely loaded. The one on the caregiver, I just loaded with facts.
It is. So it's called the Caregiver Help Book, and the whole first, about half or third of the book, the chapters correlate to our classes. So we'll tell folks, okay, for next class, you know, if you have time, read chapter 2. If you don't have time and you really, it's already a push to carve out the time to come to the class, we cover everything. It's not like you can't understand it without reading, but it really does help to give the context. But then what's nice with the book is the whole second half is just chock full of specific topics. So it'll talk about how do you approach a difficult conversation with family? How do you divvy up the caregiving duties with your adult siblings? It'll talk kind of challenges specific to folks dealing with dementia. And so it's really, it's meant to be a resource beyond just the class, you know?
That's what I remember it said. The one that's attending your class now is all the resources that are in the book, because we don't know what our resources are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and excuse me while I walk, my battery is running out, so I'm gonna go plug it in.
Also, Jessica, I really appreciated this, and now as Jan brought it up, I think I missed the last couple because of Dave's surgery, but Jessica puts out wonderful resource pamphlets at every class. So it really orients you to many of the other resources in Rochester, Southern Minnesota. I mean, it's just unending, and just to sit and look through those is a big help. And I would think for caregivers, it would just give them a wealth of information and knowledge of, what's out there.
Good, yeah, so we try to put together a resource guide, so it kind of has, if you are looking for transportation, here's some different companies and everything like that. And then, like Kathy said, there's a whole resource table, so I'll have different pamphlets. I try to just go around town and connect with all the different organizations offering support. So a lot of times I think folks just feel stuck. They think that they have to do it all just because they don't know that there are these different helps out there. So yeah, definitely the resources alone are really helpful too.
So if this were something that we were going to do at Redeemer, is Redeemer going to act rather as a host church to our neighborhood, to families we might send a flyer to in our area of town or neighborhood to see if there's something we can do to invite in people?
Yeah, so usually I kind of take on the advertising side of it, but then if Redeemer wanted to do anything above and beyond, that's definitely an option. Just with our host sites, like you said, they'd be the host site, but we do want it to be open to the community too.
Yeah.
So our past class was hosted by Homestead Church. So they did some advertising in their bulletin. Usually I will try to get it in all the local church bulletins, or, go around with posters, the library.
Great, yeah, well
Yeah, just
advertised.
everywhere I can.
Yeah.
And then by word of mouth, please pass the word, because I just think so many people aren't aware of it, and it can be intimidating, but it certainly shouldn't be, because it's just wonderful. And it's people in the same boat, so to speak, obviously all different stories and different situations, but all grappling with some of the same things.
One of the biggest hurdles is just asking for help. This is a form of seeking help. So it's a wonderful, you're a wonderful resource.
Thanks.
Thank you for your program.
Thank you. It's really rewarding.
Any other questions? We thank you all for being here. And Jessica, that was just great. And whatever you send me, I'll just send on to the group.
Okay, perfect.
If I want to end with the Lord's Prayer, but what I need to tell you all is, for May, we're going to have an interesting topic. The Resounding Voices are a group in Rochester. Jan and I got an invitation letter to learn more about the group, and it's people with dementia and their caregivers who have formed a choir. And I've been in touch with the director of the choir and the executive director of Resounding Voices, because we were looking for them for something else as well. And they said they like doing Zoom things, because they'll tell us a little about the organization, how it was created, what it does. And then they actually, well, she said they're going to do a sing along. So warm up your voices, girls. I guess I can say girls tonight. But she said they do a little sing along to let you know. But they also have a nice video, and I think it shows the choir. And I feel so badly because they have an upcoming concert, and it's before our May meeting, and I can't remember the date. I looked through my emails and someone just mentioned it. It's do you have any idea where it is, Jessica?
I'm looking right now.
Oh, bless your heart. Good. Because they have a once a year program.
We got our voices warmed up yesterday with the services, right?
Yes.
Your services. Hallelujah.
Oh, I know. We have one little young guy in the congregation. He just lives for Easter. And boy, when they say Hallelujah, Christ is risen, and he just roars it out. I wondered which service he was at, if he was at sunrise or 8:30. I don't know which one, but it's
6:30 service.
Which one? 6:30.
6:30.
Sometimes he yells before the line.
Thank you, Bobby.
Oh, I love it. So Resounding Voices, we support their volunteers, their AmeriCorps senior participants too.
Oh,
So
all
it's a
right.
great group. That's exciting. So I do have their date. So it is Sunday, May 14th.
oh, it's
So-
Mother's Day, that's right.
At 2 p.m. They are hosting at Calvary Evangelical Free Church.
That's the one on 55th Street, right?
Yep. Tickets are $10. $10 for adults. Students 18 and under are free.
Well, when I called them, and I need to talk to Jan further about this, but I'm writing this all down. 18 and under are free. There was a time when we had health forums at Redeemer, you know, between services, but we've had such a wonderful Bible studies and so much to fill the time. But when I talked to the director, I asked about them having someone come to your church and sing. And she says, the interesting thing is about, you know, these people, routine and familiarity is important. So they only do one concert a year, and I think they always do it at the same spot. I might be wrong. Jessica, you might know. But she said, rather than bring a choir to the church, we talk about it and maybe do a video. But they're also very interested in doing a health forum, which I haven't had a chance to tell Jan about, where they come and kind of explain the group at the Bible study. We had Adult Teen Challenge do that once, and they sang it was terrific. But again, there's just so much opportunity for our members, and we have people with dementia. It'd be great. They're looking for more members in their choir. So however, you know, I mean, Jean, I know you're not a Redeemer member, but if you know of any you know, venue that might be good for, they're always looking forward to getting the word about Resounding Voices. And Jan and I were on a Southern Minnesota Parish Nurse call today, and there aren't that many groups. We're really fortunate to have that in Rochester. I think they said, I don't know if there's one in Austin. There's what, maybe you might know, Jessica, if you work with them through your national organization. There's only like 3 in the surrounding area.
Yeah, I only work with the group here in Rochester, so I don't know about others.
So having said that, I have a request. Our meeting should be Monday, May 1st. And my conflict is, I'm sorry, not Monday, May 1st. I'm sorry, Monday, May 8th, I believe, isn't it? Monday, May 8th should be our meeting. And I am going to be out of town babysitting with my grandkids this the 7th. I've got too many things we're having them come to. The 7th through the 14th. My question for you folks is, do you think it'd be too disruptive to have the Caring Connection meeting on the 3rd Monday in May, being there are 5, if we did it on May 15th?
That would be okay.
Would that be okay? The Resounding Voices can come, but I'm supposed to be in the cities, grandma sitting, and I don't think an evening time would work. So I was just asking if we could do it May 15th. Otherwise, I could try to get someone to coordinate it on the 8th. But I've talked to them and they can do the 15th. So.
Let's try it.
Okay, we'll try it and see. Well, again, Jessica, it's just absolutely wonderful having you. Thank you for sharing your time and your talents with us. We really appreciate that.
Thanks
And-
for having me. You have a great group, and I loved hearing how everybody's involved too. Sounds
Oh,
like a
boy,
really
yeah.
active parish.
Nobody sits around twiddling their thumbs. So, yeah, life is good. Can we end with the Lord's Prayer? We'll end with the Lord's Prayer. It always works kind of screwy on Zoom, but let's try it. Our Father, who art in heaven,
Heaven, hallowed
hallowed be thy name. Thy
thy kingdom come, thy
will
will
be
be
done
done
on earth as it is in heaven.
in heaven.
Give us this day
This day our
daily bread,
bread,
and forgive us our
our
trespasses,
trespasses,
as we forgive those
forgive those who
who
trespass
trespass against us.
against us.
And lead us not
Into
into
temptation,
temptation, but deliver us
from
evil.
evil.
For thine is the kingdom,
Kingdom,
the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
and
Thank you all. Stay
Thank you.
healthy.
Thank
Stay
you.
healthy. And we'll see you in May, and I'll get a note out. And Jean, thanks for joining us. We hope you can join us again.
Well, thank you for letting me. It was very
Oh.
valuable. It's great.
Thanks. Good night, ladies. Bye-bye.
Thank
Good
you.
Good
night.
night.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep.